Hi, welcome back to 23 Days of Astrology with Marjorie Kittrell for day 13, where we're going to talk about the moon through the houses, specifically houses 7, 8, and 9. So, if you are an astrology enthusiast, if you have the moon in houses 7, 8, and 9, or even if you're an astrologer and looking for different chart examples of ways that a moon in these houses might show up, you've come to the right place. So, before we get into my example charts, I just want to touch on the moon in the chart. So, as a reminder, in Hellenistic astrology, when we're talking about the moon, we're really talking about the circumstances or the setting of the life. Where is this life path going to unfold? How is it going to show up through daily rhythms and daily lessons? Remember that the home of the moon is the sign of Cancer. So, what that really means is when the moon is in the sign of Cancer, it's going to be empowered and it's going to have access to resources. Every planet has a home or a place where it likes to be. You can pause this and go back to this at any time, but just important to remember that when a planet is in its home, such as the moon in Cancer, it's resourced, and the topics of that place will also be resourced in the life. If a planet like the moon is not in the sign of Cancer or any of the other ones listed in the chart here, an easy rule of thumb to remember is you can kind of just draw an imaginary line from where the moon is, say it's in Aries in the chart, to where Cancer is. And we're going to then make a mental note to intertwine those topics somehow. Wherever the moon is in the chart, it will then become intertwined with the topics of the house, wherever Cancer sits in the chart. Just something to keep in mind as we're working through this. And also remember when it's not at home, like I said, we'll connect the topics, but I like to liken this to a recipe, like adding spices, or sometimes even a math sum, like pulling on this topic and pulling on that and adding them together and getting a product. That's another way to think about merging of topics and houses. Okay, so we have our example chart here for the moon in the seventh house. So this is for a mystery client. We have the moon in the seventh house of Aries. So right away, we know that the topics of the seventh house include partnerships, both romantic and also like one-on-one client work. And I like to think of this place as who is sitting across from us, because we know that the first house or the first place is you. It's the native, it is the identity. And the seventh house is directly across from that. So a good way to visualize this is you're both sitting at a table. Who is sitting across from you at the table? Whose eyes are you looking into? Now, this mystery client, um, in our reading, partnership was a huge, her marriage and her partnership was a huge piece of her life. She referred to it as her like cornerstone or a really strong foundation, her safe space, which I thought was really beautifully indicated here. Because when I first look at the moon here, the moon at the 29th degree in the sign of Aries, that could be a challenging place because of that last degree. But really, I feel like it showed up in this story, in this chart for like determinism, like determined to determined to love, determined to find the right partnership. Aries, where the moon is, as we know, is the sign, the home of Mars, and Mars could speak to determinism, passion, drive, going for what you want. So Aries really kind of brings that to life with the moon being in the placement here. So that was, it comes up in a beautiful way where I thought maybe it could be challenging, but it was more of like fighting for what you believe in and fighting for the love that is true and a refuge. Okay, so this client has a really great relationship with her partner, her husband. He is her safe space. Um, we also see that the moon rules the 10th house of Cancer because the 10th house is the moon's home, and that's where we find this. I'm sorry, Cancer is the moon's home, and that's where we find the sign. That's where we find the 10th house. Sorry. Um, my vision here, oh, there it goes. Okay. So my Zoom, sorry for the discombobulation, my Zoom screen was blocked and I couldn't see the top of the chart and it was making me stumble on my words. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's try this again. The moon is connected to the 10th house of Cancer here because Cancer is the moon's home, as we previously talked about in those earlier slides. So it's like we're merging these topics. We're drawing an imaginary line from the moon here in the 7th house of partnership with the 10th house of career. This may show up in many ways. I was wondering, did this person meet their spouse through work? This person could be a very nurturing person in their work. And the story showed up for this client as they work in higher education, specifically recruiting. And I thought that was so interesting because it's really a story of finding a home, finding a new home. The moon also represents home, finding a new home for students through building partnerships, which is really the story of the 7th house. So that is an example of the moon in the 7th house. Let's take a look at the moon in the 8th house and how it might show up, how it showed up for this client. So the 8th house is a place of others, what belongs to others, whether it's their financial resources or assets, whether it's what they think of us, or how we may feel obligated to others. This is a place where we are entangled with other people. It's also a place that could point to anxiety, as indicated in this the symbolism of the sun setting in the 7th place. So in Hellenistic astrology, the 7th place is where the sun goes to set, and the 8th place is just before that. It's waiting to set. It's an anticipatory feeling of what comes next. So that is one that could be representative of anxiety or anticipation of what's to come. And this is a place that's also been associated with the afterlife, what lies beyond. So for this particular chart, when we're thinking about the moon and the environment of this person's life and how this symbolism is going to show up for them, we obviously, well, I initially thought, okay, there's a lot of feeling obligated and feeling entangled with other people on a daily basis, simply because of where the moon is in this chart. So we also see Venus here. The moon isn't alone. We see Venus, the planet of harmony and unity, the goddess of love. And these are the only two feminine planets in ancient astrology. So it's a really strong feminine feel to this part of the chart. And we also see Aquarius, the fixed air sign, that is really making me think, okay, so this person has some kind of like a nurturing feel about the benefit, for the benefit of others, for the good of all, not just for themselves. And when I expand this a little and we think about they're also a Cancer rising, there's just a real deep like caring for women, nurturing for the wellness of women, what belongs to women. So I thought that was really interesting and beautiful. So this is a person who supports women through working in maternity care and reproductive wellness in a hospital setting. I believe she does training associated with that. And this is really a story, this moon story shows that through tending to the needs of others, they infuse harmony and comfort. And I thought that was a really good example for the moon in the 8th house. The last example that I have is the moon in the 9th house. We have another mystery client chart here. Let's talk about the 9th house for a minute. So the 9th house is the place of expanding the mind, whether it's through travel, learning, spirituality. This could be, I like to describe this place as like going great distances. Sometimes we go great distances physically through travel. Sometimes it's spiritually through our relationship with the divine, and sometimes it's through learning and training and higher education and things like that. So, this is a person who has a very busy and active mind. It's changeable, it's curious, it's sparkly. There's a lot going on. And this curious, busy mind, because remember, the moon doesn't only represent the environment of our life, it can also speak to the mind, nurturing, home, family. All of these topics are embedded in the symbolism of the moon. So when we add that to what the daily rhythms of this person's life might be like, we can see that it's busy, it's changeable, it's curious. There's probably a lot of learning happening because of it being in the ninth house. And then look what's across from the moon. We see Jupiter down here. Jupiter is a planet that expands. Jupiter is the planet that is optimistic and enlarges. So all of this across from the moon here really just kind of makes this activity enhanced. So this busy, curious, changeable mind is now a little bit enhanced because of it being across from Jupiter. So I thought that this could be somebody who is looking for home by expanding the mind, finding comfort in learning, traveling, cultivating a relationship with the divine. Whatever activity really resonates with the person, it may be rooted in looking for a sense of at homeness through doing that. This person could also be considered a seeker and maybe leaves no stone unturned. Unturned. Okay. And then I was thinking, we did talk about this in the reading, that their mind may feel like a fire hose, just like idea, idea, idea coming at them. Or maybe like so many choices, like too many choices to make a clear decision. It may feel like that. So this is a mind that is glittering with curiosity, the day-to-day life where, a lot of things unfold, maybe like vibrant and busy and changeable and a lot happening. But it could also at the same time feel a little overwhelming, overstimulating, hard to choose, hard to decide, things like that. So there's a lot of learning and a lot of curiosity happening, but it's also maybe hard to focus. And in the reading, this client did tell me that they think differently. They were tested into gifted programs as a child and kind of looked at the tests as like a game, like maybe didn't really think that they were supposed to be in them, but figured out the game. And then they were like, okay, I'll play and tested into the program. I thought that was an interesting way to describe having that experience. And also this client was somebody who explained that they really enjoy learning and enjoy retaining information. Um, and it's a cornerstone of who they are and their daily life. So I hope you enjoyed looking at these three charts for the moon through the houses. And to wrap this mini series up, we will be doing houses 10, 11, and 12 in the next video, and then we'll venture on with some more topics. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.